Jennifer Toxey. I'm a teacher here. This is my 18th year.
Oh, first question. Did you ever expect anything like this to happen?
No, I really didn't. We actually were surprised with his Down syndrome diagnosis. We actually didn't find out until he was born. So all of the indicators that you would get during the pregnancy, anything along that lines, everything came back within normal limits, and or they missed stuff along the way. So we didn't know until he was born. So it was a surprise, and we had a time, my husband and I, going through almost a grieving period where you grieve what you didn't get or grieve what you expected to get kind of thing. So
it's kind of like
but in reality, as a baby especially, he was very happy, very cuddly. He was the easy one.
That kind of answers my second question of when did you find out, something was wrong?
Yeah, it was at the delivery. My husband, we had a C-section, so I was not quite with it when babies came out. But my husband saw immediately that there was much more activity around because he's a twin, and one was fine and okay, but everybody else was kind of clustered around him. And then he kind of could tell from some of the features on the face when he came out that there was definitely a genetic abnormality.
So obviously this affects Billy.
Mm-hmm.
But before I get to that, how has this affected you and your husband?
He's a happy baby, and he was the easy one as a baby because you could kind of leave him and he wouldn't wander. So, if you left him in a room sitting and watching some TV show, when you came back a couple minutes later, he would still be sitting there watching the TV show. But as he's gotten older, his autistic behaviors have made things more difficult. He doesn't talk. He's still not potty trained as an 11-year-old currently. And it's hard to know what someone wants when they can't tell you what they want.
It impacts you mentally. It's got to put you in kind of a weird place.
It does it at times. It's not constant. It's you kind of only think of it when you start comparing either to his siblings or just other families in general. It must be much easier to go to a supermarket when someone is not plopping down because they don't want to walk through the store.
Right.
Although we've been training him, so he's actually becoming more of a helper with that kind of thing. So he'll go through the store and we can kind of point and he'll pick it up and put it into the cart. Now he will beeline towards cookies or donuts and stuff. So
how has this affected Billy in school?
In school, he is in a self-contained room, which means that he is only in a room with other children who have disabilities.
Okay.
He has a maximum of 8 students in his school. And at all times, he has at least 2, but usually 3 teachers who help out. So he's got a very good relationship, 1, with the people that are there, 2, getting a lot of attention just for his own personal needs. Now, we did have problems with his school up front. As a child with disabilities, they can actually start school at age 3, I think it is. So he's been in school since he was 3 and kind of learning how classroom works. He does much better when there's a routine. So at school, he does. So at school, he does really, really well. But, obviously his academics is much different. Right. It is really hard to judge what he knows. And they can't test him really effectively because of the way, sometimes he might just be pushing a button because it looks cool. Or he might actually know that that's the right answer. It's hard to tell.
Right.
So mentally they calculate his year level is somewhere between 3 and 4 right now, partly because of the potty training, partly because of the nonverbal issue. As a parent and as a teacher, I know that the vocabulary is there.
Right.
When he was 4, we had a toy that was an apple that had pictures and different words of animals and things and sounds. And it would ask you questions, find the animal that makes this sound. And it wouldn't show you anything. There were no lights or anything. He would get those questions right 95% of the time. It's not something that is normal on everyday vocabulary. So it wasn't something that, he's just randomly picking. But at the same time, just observing him, I know that vocabulary is there. We just can't unlock it, which becomes really frustrating, both from a teaching end and a parent end. So he does really well with music, actually. He'll go to music class. In the music class and the gym class, he's actually integrated into the other classes for 5th grade. And he will participate with the music. He'll clap his hands and rock back and forth to music. He will occasionally make sounds. They're not words, but to the music. Interesting thing with the words too, and this is an autistic trait, but he was actually talking up until 3.5. And at 3.5, he just completely stopped, which again is an autistic behavior. But he was saying things like all the important words: pizza, cookie, juice. They're all foods.
How does that translate to at home? Like the what he's learning at school and how that.
In school, they're trying to teach him life skills, so a lot of that stuff is coming back at home. They will do lots of different things and have him sort them, for example. We can take that same activity and have him help put spoons and forks and knives away in the drawer for us. Other than that, again, with him it's difficult because he doesn't seem to focus on anything, which is odd because of the autism. Autistic kids usually focus in on one thing, and that's what they love. But he like anything, so he doesn't like watching TV. He won't focus in on it long enough to get hooked into whatever you're watching. He doesn't play with toys. He's not talking, and so everything that we hand to him gets thrown across the room. So it's hard to entertain him, especially.
How do you stay positive with dealing with everything that comes with a child with Down syndrome?
That's a tough question. I honestly, with him, you can get really frustrated, or I get really frustrated with him with certain things that he does. Like we've had to remove everything out of his room because of the throwing issue. He also likes to barricade the door, so he would take anything that was in there and put it up against the door and make this big pile, and then he'd move it off and open up the door and then do it again.
That's a unique thing.
Yeah, but he was starting to push his bed up against the door, so we couldn't get in to get him. So again, the entertaining factor has been difficult, but even when you get really, really angry at him, I think the Downs characteristics kind of come in. He's got a great smile, and he looks up at you with this just adoring look that, as a parent, you kind of melt that. So he is our greatest cause of frustration, but he is also our greatest love of, just you're my hero kind of look that he gives you. Siblings look after him, so there's a lot of caring and helping from the sibling end. They really try to make sure that he's included with stuff, although they also get really frustrated with him as well. I don't know, they're neat to watch together, but there is a very big disconnect just based off of that. Now, he will also come and sit, either try to sit on their laps or sit right next to them and kind of lean too, which I guess that's the closest thing to an interaction for him with them.
One last final thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is there anything that you feel like should just be said, or that you just want the crowd of MHSP juniors or Miss People and Miss Zablocki to know?
I kind of think with Down syndrome and any kid with a disability, you really need to break down the barriers of, that person is different, because they all want the same kind of thing. They all want to be respected. They all want to be loved. And if you take the time to actually get to know kids with disabilities, you'll find that they actually have a lot of positive things that come out, even though they might not interact the same way that you would think someone without them would. So you can learn things from them that maybe you didn't think you could.